25 years ago, I was working in a law office and we were pretty much hybrid between digital and paper. Now, one of the things that we had with paper was these things called photocopiers. Now, photocopiers required something like this. This is a ream of photocopy paper. Now, the problem with photocopiers is that they jammed very easily. So the feed that was taking the paper and taking it into the machine often got stuck inside the machine, and you had to pull everything apart and pull out the paper to clear the jam and then start again. This resulted in a lot of wasted paper. Now, I was very fortunate to have an office manager who was an environmental genius, because what she used to do was she would make us put all this wasted paper into a box at the side of the machine, and then she would spend about 30 minutes a day just folding the paper in half like this, and then cutting it down the side. I could do this right now, like this, put them together, and then she would staple these pieces together. We would then use these as what we called scratch pads. Now, scratch pads were great because when you were on the telephone, you could be talking on the phone like this, and then you could be making quick notes. Now, this is actually still very natural for me to do. I find it a little bit more inconvenient to be typing on a machine when I'm on a phone. It's more natural, being left-handed, to write the notes like telephone numbers, addresses, or anything else of key information onto these paper scratch pads. Now, the thing is, we live in a digital world today, and that means that I asked the question, can we replicate the same thing, i.e. these scratch pads, in a digital world? Well, the answer is yes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, please explain to me in the notes below, in the comments below, that I believe Obsidian, when it came out a few years ago, actually introduced a concept called daily notes. Now, this is where it just collected all your notes for the day and put them into one note. Great. Now, recently Evernote have launched something similar called Daily Notes, which you can turn on in Evernote, where every morning it will create a daily note for you. Now, Cal Newport also talks about using a basic text file document open on his desktop all day, where he can just throw things in, acting like an external brain. So the idea of having an external notes in the digital world has been around for a while. Apple Notes, for example, has quick notes. Now, we have to think about this a little bit because technology is changing all the time. So what we might think is great today may be incompatible in a few years' time. For instance, about 20 years ago, I bought this DVD, and this is probably one of the most amazing music concerts ever in the history of humankind. Maybe. I know some people will disagree with me, but perhaps this was. The thing is, I don't have a DVD player to play this anymore. Now, I know some of you will argue with me and say, well, you can take this to a shop and they will put it into a digital format for you. Yes, I know they would. But the problem I have here is I haven't got the time to do that. And the longer I leave this, the less likely I am ever going to be able to watch the DVD again. Similarly, I actually noticed in the store cupboard, I have VHS videos. Now, when we think about this, this is only 20 years ago I bought this and I had DVD players. Now I don't have a DVD player. Everything is digital and streaming. Just 20 years. And that technology is pretty much now obsolete and not able to use it. I also have a box of CD-ROMs full of all my photos pre-2004. Completely useless. I have nothing to open those DVD-ROMs on now. And again, I know some of you will say there are places that you can send these and they will print them out and put them onto a drive for you. Yes, I'm sure. But let's move on to another 10 years' time. How many of those stores will there be? Probably not many. So within 30 years, a technology has come, everyone loved it, and now it's completely gone, and we don't have a way to open it. So if you want to keep your daily notes forever, then the best way to do this is going to be with a text edit file. Trouble with text edit files is they're not really formattable, and if you're going to put a link in there, you have to put the whole link in and then copy and paste it into your browser. But a daily note is a great way to treat it as what we used to use for these scratch pads. They're great because you can just quickly scribble notes on them like this, and at the end of the day, you can then move them to wherever they need to go. Now, the point of these scratch pad notes was at the end of the day, anything important was then moved to the necessary files or documents or whatever, because we were using paper folders for files in those days. Now, the same thing applies today. If you're going to use a daily note, you will need to establish some sort of process to be able to take the key information that you need and to move it into its correct place. So whenever I used Apple's Quick Notes, for example, which is fantastic because they're easy to pull up on your phone, I can then just drag that, whatever I need, the link or the phone number or the email address, and just drag it into the appropriate note. And that could be a project note. It might even just be a content idea. I'm forever having ideas whenever I'm taking my dog for a walk. So I will throw it into Quick Notes, and then I'm going to put that into my content note, which actually is in Evernote. I know, I'm using two notes apps. However, let me justify my thinking. I use an iPhone, and on the iPhone, it's just so much quicker to add a note to Apple Notes than it is to add to any other Notes app. But I am processing this at the end of the day and then moving things into the appropriate folder. It takes less than 5 minutes to do, but if I don't, then having all these additional tools and things, it's just another list of stuff that I'm not looking at, I'm backlogging, and I'm going to miss important information. The key part to this is not so much the collecting. The collecting is easy. The key part to this is processing it at the end of the day or first thing in the morning so that you have everything moved into its appropriate place. Technology is great, and I absolutely love my technology. You know, I have the latest iPhone, I have an iPad, I have a MacBook. I'm in the Apple ecosystem. But it's only as good as how you are organizing the stuff that you're collecting at the end of the day. It always comes back to COD, collect, organize, and do. i.e. you've got to be collecting stuff in an appropriate place, in a place that you trust, and then at some point within the next 24 hours, you process what you collected. It's pointless. That's almost for not organizing what you collect. That's almost like writing stuff on here and at the end of the day just doing this and throwing it. It's pointless. Then you're just going to have a pile of rubbish in the corner of your office, not knowing where anything is or what it is. You need to process what you collected, but if you're doing it every day, it only takes about 5 minutes. But the daily note is a wonderful, wonderful concept. Franklin Planner used it 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I've seen the day planner outline as well. Guess what? Daily notes. Daily notes have always been there. They've been a function of time management and productivity for a very, very long time. In the digital world, it's so much easier to do it because if we're looking at a screen all day, the key is to have that daily note open on your desktop so you can quickly add stuff as you are working. It's just a brilliant concept. But it only works if you are spending a few minutes at the end of the day processing what you collected and then leaving the daily note. Now you can organize your daily notes in Evernote and in Apple Notes for that matter into a folder and just call it daily notes. Make sure that you put the title up at the top. This really helps you if you need to reference back to the daily note, because then all you need to do is put a reference. You can actually link to the note in Evernote or in Apple Notes, although it's not that easy. You can also then, if you're not doing that, you can actually just put a reference like DN and then the date. So DN for daily note and then the date. So that will always take you back to the original daily note where you make your notes. It's a superb concept. It's been around for a very, very long time, but we can do it in the digital world as well, which is great because it just means that now we have a place to quickly grab information, but we don't want to be doing it like the old post-it notes where we have lots of open text files or notes all over the place. Keep it in one single note for the day. Just create a new note each day. Just put the date at the top. You may want to give it a title like daily note, the date. whichever way you want to do it, but you need to make a way of being able to reference back to that note if you don't have anywhere to put those notes, but you may need to reference back to them later. Well, I hope you found this brief video useful. Thanks very much for watching it. If you want to learn how I organize tasks and my projects together, then this video up here is the one to watch next.